Hello, everyone. So I'm here with my sister Leigh, and I want her to introduce herself. Today, we're going to be talking about specifically plant medicine, the importance of integration, and so many other things. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yes, thank you so much, Victoria, for inviting me. I'm so honored and grateful to be here. My name is Leigh Nadal, and I am a empowerment coach and integration specialist, and I also teach neurosomatic flow arts.
Wow, that's beautiful. Before we start with anything else, can you tell us a little bit more about what is this flow art all about?
Yeah. So flow arts, I guess it's been in our history for a long time. If you go back to the ancient Egyptians, you can see drawings from when they were throwing balls in the air, kind of like juggling. So what it is it's the movement of the body with some kind of prop. So balls, juggling balls in the air, and there's many different props that you can use. There's hula hoops, there's poi from the Maori in New Zealand, there's staff. A lot of it also originates from martial arts. But the props that I love are silk fans, and then there's also LED fiber optic whips, which are very fun at night, and they create all these beautiful light trails. And so for me, it's a way to bring play into your life, because I think play is so important. And as adults, I don't really think we get enough of it. And
Right.
so having that time to just play and have fun, it's a way to move your body, it's a way to move energies through your body, it's a way to express yourself, it's a way to take up space. It almost becomes like an extension of you, and it's an art form, really, and it's just beautiful, and it's fun, and it's therapeutic. I could go a little bit more into like the neurosomatic part of it later, if you want, but yeah, it's a physical meditation for me, really, is what it is. And I'm able to get into a state of flow, a flow state, where everything else around me just slips away, and I just, I'm in this state of flow, and it's this beautiful time, to give to myself, just this beautiful, beautiful energy and art form.
I almost went there. Like I felt moving, and I'm like, oh my God, am I moving? Now, before you got to flow art, and I don't know if you were doing this before, but was it before your awakening or after that you got into the flow arts?
It was before. Yeah, I really got into flow arts back in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. And my awakening, it's so funny. Um, I think we always try to like pinpoint like the exact moment, like, oh, this was the moment, right? It's so hard though, right? Because I think that really it's been like this gradual process through our
Right.
lives, because when we do have that moment of like, aha, it's an accumulation of our experiences and our realizations and everything. So, um, yeah, so my awakening process, I think I had been experimenting a lot with various psychedelics in my 20s and 30s, mostly, like cannabis and mushrooms, magic mushrooms, and then a little bit of LSD. And I had also listened to some psychedelic gurus and mystics, such as Paul Stamets, and Terence McKenna was a really big one for me. Paul Stamets is not so much like a psychedelic guru. He's more of an astromycologist. So he's really into mushrooms and mycelium and how they communicate with the earth and the trees,
Right.
and how the mycelium is connected to the universe. And he ties it all into Terence McKenna's the stoned ape theory. I don't know if you've heard of this, but the stoned ape theory is credited due to Terence McKenna. And he said that when we were developing human consciousness, that he believes that these magic mushrooms were primarily responsible for humans expanding their consciousness and developing language and science and philosophy and arts and
That
basically our
sounds
whole culture.
beautiful.
Mhm. And so I think it was like early 2018, I was listening to Terence McKenna a lot. And he was just activating so much remembrance in me, because I believe we all hold this knowledge within us, and it's just a process of remembering who we
I'm getting
are.
goosebumps.
Yeah. And so I remembered so much. And then later that summer, I went to this music festival. And, you know, the term synchronicities, well, I had so many synchronicities that weekend, I could not ignore it. And then I remember later that year, ayahuasca had been coming into my field, and I knew about ayahuasca several years ago, but it really started to come into my field a lot, especially that year in 2018. And actually at that music festival, I met a Peruvian shaman. She was one of the healers that was there, and she did like a body energy session with me that was really
Wow.
fascinating. She like did this thing where she broke an egg in a glass of water. I don't know if you're familiar with this
Yeah.
process. It was fascinating. And so I had this limiting belief that in order to get ayahuasca, that I had to go to Peru, that it was only in Peru, that I had to go to Peru. And I had had some traumatic experiences traveling outside the country in my past, where I was very afraid to travel alone.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it was okay, well, I'm gonna have to wait and go with like a group of people, or maybe like have a friend go with me. And I was kind of afraid to like go to Peru alone.
Wow.
And then in late 2018, I came across this documentary film that was being screened in Atlanta, where I lived, and it was called From Shock to Awe. And this documentary film featured an ayahuasca church that was actually here in the States, in Orlando. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's here. I don't have to even go to Peru to work with this medicine. And so early 2019, it was March 2019. That's when we met.
Yeah.
I went to this ayahuasca church, and then I had my first ayahuasca experience, and that really just changed everything. The only way, I guess the easiest way to say it is, it just shifted my entire reality. It
Wow.
took everything I thought that I knew, dissolved it,
Right.
and said, okay, like pretty much everything you thought you knew was wrong. And here's the truth. Here's the
Right.
truth. And it was so beautiful too, because being in that community and being with others, you're having a collective experience.
Right.
So it's not just you, it's you and me and the other people who are there, and we're talking together about it. And it's almost like we're speaking this like new language.
Right.
Right. And it's like,
It's
ooh, what
unity
is
consciousness at the, like, right here, right now.
yes, that's exactly what it is. It's unity consciousness. So we were speaking a language of unity consciousness and of truth and love. And that's when it really finally like clicked in and crystallized for me.
It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Can you give us, like, do you remember anything from that weekend that was like, I don't know, like something that you always go back to and you're like, whoa, like I remember?
Yeah, yes, several things actually. um, well, I guess I'll just share The thing that was the most profound for me was that, you know, I had worked with psychedelics before, but ayahuasca is different, okay? Because not that to say that, you know, like mushrooms are a plant and they definitely have their own consciousness, right? They have their own
Right.
energy. But also, when I had been using the mushrooms previously, it was not as intentional. It was not for this
Mm,
healing purpose. It was to have fun, right?
right. Very different.
Very different. And sometimes I'd have fun and sometimes I wouldn't. It was kind of like 50-50 because there was so much in my subconscious. I was still being run by the subconscious programs
Right.
that I would do the mushrooms, and sometimes I would have fun. And sometimes the traumas and the things in my subconscious would try to come up and come out of me. But what I would do is I would push them back down. I would
Right,
repress
because you
them.
didn't have the right tool to bring it to the surface and release it.
Right. And I didn't have the support. Like if I was with my friends and I started talking about like a trauma, my friends would say, oh, well, you know, that's bringing us down. We just want to have a good time. And so I didn't want to inconvenience them. So I just kept pushing it down.
Wow.
But when I came to the ayahuasca, I was at the point where I was very intentional. I was like, this is going to be medicine and this is going to be healing. So
Mm.
it was different. And ayahuasca definitely has its own consciousness for sure. Um,
Yes.
and I remember the first night that I sat with it, I took a cup, nothing was really happening. And then I took some rape tobacco, which is a shamanic snuff, and that caused a purge to happen. And I could sense, like emotionally, I could sense the things that were being released.
Beautiful.
And then I remember I drank a second cup and not much really happened. Like I wasn't getting these like profound visions that people talk about. And even so, if I get a vision, it's very few and far between and they don't last very long. For me, it's more about like the purging. That's where the medicine is for me. And so I remember I was up very late. I think I stayed up all night that first night. And I went back to my tent. And I think it was about 5 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, all of these downloads starting to rush into my mind. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this had never happened to me before with anything. And it was just all this information, like, and, you know, it was, you need to do this, you need to stop doing that, you need to do more of this. It
Wow.
was like the abuela, the grandmother energy,
Right.
like coming in and telling you what you need to do.
Right.
So I'm journaling and journaling and journaling, and I'm like, whoa, like I can't believe this. Like the plant is like communicating with me. And that was just amazing.
Right. Right. I mean, yes, it's like not only there is consciousness there, but what they have shown me is that these are the elders, the elders that came to see the universe, this planet here, and that they left part of themselves here in order for them to be able to heal through the medicine woman, the medicine man, to hold this space where you can actually, they become like the connection, the gateway, so you can be transported to other dimensions in order for you to really understand what we're doing here, which is, I mean, it's just amazing.
It is. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's like, it's beyond words.
Right.
I feel
There's no way to put it in any human words.
there is not. I think our human language is very limiting when it comes to that.
Right,
Mhm.
right. I agree. So you have, after that experience, I know that you have your own business for integration and flow art, correct?
Mhm.
So at what point do you think, oh my goodness, this integration, because remember when you say you went in with the intention, which is part of your integration, And then when you finish the journey, you also need integration for you to be, just like when you do medicine or when you do meditation, when you're going to dream, we need intention and integration. At what point do you say, wait, something needs to be done about this?
Yeah, well, so I actually learned about the importance of integration the hard way, personally, um, because integration, I feel, there's a big gap in the plant medicine community.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you'll go to ceremony, you'll sit, and maybe you'll have some integration circles that weekend while you're there, and then you go home, and then there's no more.
That's it.
What's happening is, especially I'd say those first 2 to 3 months are very critical. Like, that is a critical time period, and the medicine stays with us our entire lives. So I'm still processing and integrating things back from 2019. However, those first few months are very critical, because what's happening is the experience is different for everyone. But oftentimes we have this mass shift in our consciousness. And oftentimes we are changing, our reality is changing, our beliefs are changing.
Yes.
We are shedding some of the old programming. We are seeing through the veil of the illusion.
Doing a lot of shadow work.
And a lot of shadow work. That's right. So bringing awareness to those shadow parts of ourselves that we have not been wanting to look at, love and compassion to that side of us as well, and accepting and loving that part of us as well. And so there's so much mentally and physically that's happening during that time. We need support.
Yeah.
We need community, we need support. It's so important. And I remember for me, I was working with a therapist at the time, and I come back and, my therapist was lovely, a lovely person, and she was a very good therapist, and she tried to be as supportive as she could. However, when you are traveling into another dimension and that person has not traveled there, they cannot fully support you.
Right.
That is just the reality of it. So you need someone who has traveled to that space, and it whoever it is, like, it should be someone you resonate with. And there's many people now, thankfully, that are stepping up into this role of providing integration support.
Right.
But I highly, highly recommend, especially if it's your first time, lining yourself up with someone for when you return, for those at least the first 2 months, to just have that support. Because we come back and we have shifted so much. We're almost like a different person, right? Well, we're more of who we are. Right. We're more of our authentic selves. So we come back sometimes to this life, and the people in our lives expect us to be the same, right? But we're different, right?
That's very hard.
That's very challenging. So our friends and family and the people that we're closest to, they're very confused. They don't know what to do about it. They don't know how to relate to us and talk to us anymore. And maybe we don't know how to relate to them anymore, right? Wow. And then sometimes we come back to this job that maybe we no longer want to do. Or, I've heard it's very common that people want to leave their jobs. They want to leave their marriage. They want to make all these really big changes right away. And we have to be really careful with that, because we need to allow time for the wisdom and the downloads to marinate a little bit. We need to sit with them. We need to journal. This is why the support of the integration specialist is so important, because there's a lot of processing that still needs to take place.
Right. There is so much. I remember coming back my first time and seeing things that I was able to, it was almost like I tap into one part of myself that I was denying for a long time with my spiritual gifts. And I remember seeing all these different spirit guides and entities, and, I'm coming back and I'm feeling like something is going on. And my family is worried that I am now doing drugs because I never do drugs. So they're like, oh my God, something is going on with this woman. What is going on? Like, are we losing her? Is she going crazy? And I'm like, chill. I think I'm better than all of you guys right now because I'm aligning myself with who I am. So, but they were very scared for a long time. I gave medicine to my mother, and the first time that I gave medicine to my mother, she had already done it with somebody else, and I just hold the space for her, and it was a beautiful ceremony. And when she came out, because the first time she didn't go anywhere, she only for some reason she couldn't go through, and she just was very disappointed. So I said, okay, let's do it again. And when she did it again, she tapped into the most beautiful energies. And she was like, okay, now I understand. But it wasn't until then that she was still questioning, like, okay, now am I crazy now that I'm doing this too? So there is a lot that happens. And I think people get really confused about what the other people are going to say, how they're going to react to them. And then you get triggered and you're like, I'm supposed to be a better person. What happened? So it's like, I guess I'm not perfect anymore. I got to go back.
Yeah. That's so beautiful that your mother was able to share that experience with you. That's
Oh,
just so
yeah,
beautiful.
she's a believer now, if I can put it. But she wouldn't do it again. She's like,
I
but
understand that.
it's beautiful because I was able to connect with her in a different dimension where I saw her true essence, like how magical she is. And I have been always so proud of my mother, but that took it to another,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
whoa, like I'm like, my mother's like a freaking goddess. Like,
He's a badass. Really?
she's a
Yes,
badass.
it takes so much courage to sit with the medicine. I tell people every time, like I say, like I honor you for having the courage to show up and to be here,
Right.
and to be doing this work, because it
Yeah.
takes a lot of bravery.
Some people are afraid because they're afraid, deep down they are afraid of what does it mean to change, what does it mean to transition to somebody else or become who I'm really supposed to. And I know that I've been neglecting that for so long. So
Or to see the shadows.
to see the shadows. I mean, trust me, there are people that that come to me and say, who where should I go for medicine? And I will send them to different people, and they never make it to the medicine because they're not ready for the medicine. But
Right.
I think that's why when someone is thinking about medicine, I think the first thing is going to someone like you that can help them put together a plan. Like, what is the intention? Can you talk to us more about us, about the intention, and like how do people go from intention to actually going through a journey and then coming out of the journey?
Absolutely. Yeah, intentions are so important, because I think what happens sometimes is if we go into something without an intention, nothing happens,
Right.
right? And then we're wondering, why is nothing happening? We don't know. So we have to be like very intentional, because I believe that, ayahuasca, like, she has her own consciousness and we can communicate with her. And if we go in and we ask, and we're very intentional about what we want, about the type of healing that we want to receive, that she will listen.
Yeah.
She will listen.
Right.
I remember there was one ceremony, my second ceremony, that same weekend I was there with you. It was a daytime ceremony. And I had the most beautiful ceremony ever that time, because I asked the medicine, I said, show me what love is.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what she did. And so I really do believe that intentions are so important, because you need to know, like, why are you coming to the medicine? Like, what is it that you want to see? Like, what type of healing do you want to experience?
Right.
um, you know just coming to it because your friends did it, or because it's like the thing to do, like, that's not the right way. And it really does need to call to you. It really does, because
Right.
it's not for everyone. But, I'd say with the intention is getting very clear on that intention and what you're wanting to work on is just of utmost important. And it's different for everybody. And
Right.
so, going in with that intention, and you can have more than one, and maybe you only get to one. Maybe you can move on to the second or the third one, and maybe they're all together at the same time. You never know. And so with the journey, yeah. So when you're going on this journey with the medicine, your intentions will be weaved into that journey.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's so important that you said, you gave us that example about experiencing love. And I have experienced that in different meditations and even with San Pedro. I remember going to ayahuasca once, and I wanted to know something that I shouldn't have asked for, honestly, because I wanted to know, how does it feel to have a mental disorder? I
Mm,
have been obsessed
wow.
with helping people that have mental challenges because I think it's supernatural. So I go to the medicine, and it was a daytime ceremony. And I have asked in dreams and meditation, but I wanted to take it to the next level. So I went to ayahuasca, and I got out of the ceremony not wanting to ever do medicine again because I was trapped in a loop. I was in, it was an endless loop. Every time that I was done, it would take me back down again. And I couldn't do the next session because I was so physically and mentally exhausted that I was just like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna die today. Like, and I was okay with dying, but I wasn't okay with being trapped in the loop. And it just drove me insane. And I experienced what I ask. So we do have to be so intentional. And I think even with just meditation, the intention drives the whole session, right? So when you go into this intention, you really have to be careful what you ask for because otherwise you can end up like me. The shaman couldn't do anything because that's what I asked the medicine, and the medicine was giving me what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be careful what you ask for.
Right. So have you have any clients that come to you with intentions that wait a minute, like we really need to analyze this. Like what is the process of setting the intention?
I say that the process of setting the intention is just, we'd have a conversation about, so what is attracting you to working with the medicine? What's bringing you to the medicine? What is going on right now in your life? And sometimes we might have to do like a little bit more digging to find out like what is at the core, what is at the root of all of that, because there's always something at the root. It usually stems from our childhoods, because that's where a lot of our programming happens and that's where a lot of our beliefs are formed. But it's complicated. It could be our childhoods, it could be past lives, it could be our ancestors, all of that stuff,
Right.
right? So I'd say just having a conversation with the individual about where they're at. What are they currently going through, and what are they looking to get out of the medicine, and then it kind of like just goes from there.
Right, right. So normally a session to set the intention, what will the program be like? Do people pay for one session or do they actually go through a program with you?
Right now, yeah, I'm not doing any programs at the moment. I'm just doing one-on-one sessions at the moment. So it would probably just be a one-time session. Sometimes it could be two, if the person wants extra support, if it's their first time. But yeah, just one session.
For the
It's like
intention.
for the intention. So that
And
would
what
just
about
be a preparation session. And
right,
so we would go over not only the intentions, but we go over like dieta, and it's not just the food we eat, it's what we're watching, it's the whole lifestyle, because we need to really get that clean and clear before going into the medicine to have the best experience.
right,
It's also about making arrangements for when you come back, to make sure that you have some alone time, to make sure that you have some quiet spaces to sit in. just to set you up for success when you return. And then, oftentimes we'll also talk about choosing a safe space, choosing a safe shaman. If a person has not yet chosen someone, like what questions to ask and how to find someone that is safe, right? Because that's very important as well. So all of that stuff would happen in a preparatory session, and that would just be like a one-time session. And then if people would want to do integration work with me afterwards, I would recommend 2 to 3 months working with me on a weekly basis after they come back.
Beautiful. And yeah, I think it's important for us to remind everyone how sacred this journey is. And that's why proper preparation is key to having the right healing, because at the end of the day, this is about healing. If you go to ayahuasca just to experience other dimensions, you almost don't really get much out of this, because this is about healing, right? This is not about, let me take a mushroom and go see other things. When you go to ayahuasca, you have to come up and show up with respect and understanding the sacredness of her spirit in order for you to really tap into the healing.
Yes. And she will, if you show up without respect, she will humble you.
Right.
She will humble you very quickly, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned something about choosing the right shaman. And if you don't want to go into this, it's okay. We can skip it completely. But I know you mentioned before in one of our conversations before that you had an experience where you were a little bit put off. Do you want to talk to us about that, or?
Sure. Yeah. And I don't want to necessarily put anyone off from the medicine. So let me just say this disclaimer, and let me just say that, it's going to be a different experience for everyone. So that's the thing with ayahuasca is you can talk to other people about their experiences, and you can watch videos, and you can read books, but at the end of the day, you're going to have your own very unique experience. So I try not to, like, don't allow yourself to be too influenced by other people's experiences, is what I would say before I share this, because I don't want to necessarily scare people off who have been drawn to working with the medicine. But I did have an experience with a dark entity, and I believe that it came from my family's lineage. So my ancestors, and I believe that I'm not sure exactly where it came into my ancestors' line, but I believe that this particular entity had been with my ancestors for a very long time, because I sensed it was very, very old.
Okay.
And it was a type of entity that would require some very powerful, knowledgeable medicine women in particular to deal with. So this type of entity, for it to be cleared, I'd have to be sitting with people who were very experienced in doing this type of clearing, and who were very experienced with this kind of realm with entities. Because, as you know, not everyone has a different sensitivity level to the spirits and the entities. And so what happened for me in this particular session was I felt this entity, and it was present. It was in my field. And I was in a lot of physical pain. I was very, very sick because I had been having difficulty purging, because typically I'll use the assistance of the rape tobacco to help me with my purge. However, this particular session, I did not have that medicine, and the shaman I was sitting with didn't use that medicine. So I'm sitting and I'm so sick, and this entity comes in, and it was a very like dark feeling. Like, it was a little scary, and it was trying to coax me out of my body. And it was telling me, you know, you could put an end to this sickness. Like we could end this all right now if you just come with me. And that's when I was like, oh no, this is not good. I was like, I've gotten into some trouble. So I called the shaman out who was with me and I expressed my concern. And she, I think she wound up making me a honey tea that helped me to finally purge. But, you know, that was a very traumatic experience. And, you know, I feel like, and I don't want to say anything bad because she is a wonderful person and she's a beautiful shaman. But maybe she just couldn't sense what I was sensing, or, you know, maybe, yeah, maybe not every shaman has the capacity to clear those type of entities.
Understood. And I, like you said, we want to remind people that everybody's going to have different experiences. Sometimes you see the fairies, the elementals, you see ancestors, you see your spirit guides, and it's like a lot of work can be done. When you get to something, and you didn't know anything about this, so obviously you wouldn't have known to say anything before, right? Like it's not like you're gonna say, "Hey, I think I have something that might come through." So you do need to have the right shaman. But I think when you said woman, why was it important to be a woman? Because I know there are shamans, males, that could do some.
So after that experience, I think it was like within the next few days after having that experience, I had a vision and I saw a circle of women. And the medicine was telling me, if you do want to clear this type of thing, like this is what you need to do.
Wow. And this brings me back to something, like a lot of work that has come through in quantum healing, and even just studying brings me back to the ancient times when women were the powerful ones and they were the ones doing all the healing, all the work. So it's interesting that you had that session. That's crazy.
Yeah, and and nothing against men. I think men are beautiful. But yeah, I do feel very strongly, at least for me personally, that, you know, when I go to do healing work, I prefer to sit with women. I feel more safe with women. I just yeah, I feel like there's something so ancient in the women were like the original healers. The first drummers were women. Like women were the first ones to start drumming. um yeah, so I think just like we have this ancient like medicine women history that's coming back,
Yes.
that that's very exciting because we've been living in this you know, patriarchy for way too long. And so, you know, the medicine women are coming up and coming out and sharing themselves now. And I think, honestly, I think that that's what's going to really heal our planet and heal our people.
Beautiful. And now that we're there, healing, let's go back to the flow art. How will someone have a session with you? Do they have to be near you or they do it online?
Well, typically I do that in person. It's not that I can't do it remotely. It's just, it's a lot better doing it in person. I'd say if there's someone who's already practicing flow arts, I could do some work with them remotely online, because there's a lot of different components to it, and it's feeling into the energy of the person, as well as, you know, when you're teaching them certain movements with their bodies, there's the posture, there's feeling into the energy. Are they tense? Are they relaxed? You know, looking at like their arm positions. There's just like so much that goes into it that makes it a little bit complicated to do remotely.
Right.
It can be done, but I do prefer doing it in person.
Okay. So how will people get a hold of you? What is the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, Leigh Nadal, Nadel. And then I also have a website. It's called Tigris Transcendence.com. And I can give you both of those website links if you wanted to put them in the description.
Yeah, we'll put that in the description. I love that name, Tigris Transcendence. It's like, I like, ooh.
Yeah,
Why? Why
I've
did you
always,
pick that?
yeah, I've always resonated really strongly with with tiger medicine. So I'd say like that's my primary spirit animal is the tiger. And as far as the word transcendence, that comes from, I believe that we're not here to transcend being human. We're actually here to having a human experience. But what we can transcend are the fears and the old programming and the limiting beliefs.
It's beautiful.
Because, you know, I can speak from personal experience, you can speak from personal experience, and we have this whole community that's doing this work. And I believe that it's possible for every human being. And I believe that happiness is our birthright and we all deserve happiness and freedom. You
Yeah,
know, at the end of the day, we all deserve that.
that's beautiful. So we're going to include the links to the website and your Facebook so anyone can grab it. I think we're going to end with that because that was just beautiful. Do you have anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think that summed it up very nicely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. This was so much fun.
It
Thank you
was
so much for
beautiful.
inviting me.
I love the experience. Thank you.